this Crochet for Knitters tutorial, we're going to learn to do this blanket. It's done out of Tunisian crochet. In my family, we call it the Afghan stitch, and we'll give you an image here of the blanket in baby colors. Tunisian crochet is very cool for knitters because it gives us an opportunity to crank out a baby blanket really quickly, and Tunisian crochet is a unique technique in that it's kind of a cross between knitting and crochet, and I think knitters will catch on to it really quickly. One of the things I like about it is that it makes these perfect little squares that are ideal for cross stitch. And in both of those blankets, you'll see I have a name cross stitched onto it. And I guess the thing that will trigger your memory the most if you've never done Tunisian crochet is you might have in your life seen a crochet hook that looks like this. A crochet hook on one end, it's very long, and it has a stopper at the other end. This is a traditional Tunisian crochet hook. Modern Tunisian crochet is done more on something like this with a cord and a stopper, and this is from an interchangeable set that I have here. Also, in the past, if you have used an old-fashioned Tunisian crochet hook that has a cord on the end, things have come a long way. Like technology, in the same way it's made knitting needles so much better, it's made these Tunisian crochet cords so much better. The old ones are, the cords are stiff and hard to straighten out, and they're always either curled or poking the dog in the eye while you're trying to work with them. The new Tunisian crochet hooks are way better, and I'll give you a link in the video description field below as to where you can find these hooks for yourself. If you'd like to get your free copy of this pattern to follow along, I'll give you a link here on screen as well as in the video description field below. Also in the video description field and on my website, you will see links and descriptions to everything you see here. Every yarn, every hook, the sweater I'm wearing, everything is going to be in there, so all your questions are answered. To work this, you will need I use 3 colors of yarn and a Tunisian crochet hook. I'm going to show you how to do everything about this stitch and the cross stitch and the fringe. You don't have to have any previous skills, just yarn and a hook. And in the first section, we're going to, I was going to say cast on. Of course I was going to say cast on. We're going to chain and work the foundation row because this is crochet and not knitting, and that's next. Once you have your hook and your yarn, you are ready to go. I will say one thing about this pattern. You can make this in any size, using any yarn, any hook size, but you will need to work up a little swatch using the hook size and yarn that you want to use, and then just measure the number of stitches that you're getting per inch and multiply that by the width of blanket you want. There's no limit. The only limit would be that you might run out of yarn if you make it like a king-size bedspread or something, but that's going to be your easiest way to modify this. And another note, if you are familiar with crochet and using worsted weight yarn and you always use this hook size, Tunisian crochet uses a bigger hook size than you'll think that you need, but you do need it. So I've given you, I believe, a size K in the pattern, and that's for worsted weight yarn, which seems huge for regular crochet, but it's necessary for Tunisian crochet, so just trust the pattern. Let's go ahead and take a look. I want to give you a close-up of what Tunisian crochet looks like. Here is a little bit of it. You can see we have these perfect little boxes for each stitch, and a little bit of the cross stitch here, and it's so perfect. It's because knitting, a knit stitch doesn't make a perfect little square, and so this is kind of a treat for knitters to have these stitches be such perfect little squares. And I would say that the fabric is as plain and smooth as stockinette stitch. Okay. We are going to start out with a chain, just like with any crochet project. And I always start my chain with a slip knot. And I have I'm actually using a bulkier hook and a bulkier yarn than the pattern calls for, but that's so that you can more easily see what I'm doing. If you are not familiar with the crochet chain stitch, I'll give you a link right here. It's really the only thing that you have to learn, because I'm going to show you everything else. Okay, I'm just going to do a little sample here, and this would be the exact way that you'd want to work a sample for making a swatch if you want to modify the blanket to be a different size. Okay, so we have this crochet chain here, and I'm looking at the side with the V's. If you turn it over, you'll see the spine of the crochet chain, or what I call the hyphens. Right down the center, there are these little lines. You have a choice. If you want, you can pick up the top leg of the V, or you can turn it over and go into the spines. I think the spines actually make a nicer edge. That's what I'm going to do. It's a little bit tougher to get your hook in there though. So I am going to go into the spine right next to the hook. And you wrap it and pull it through. And go into the next one. This is just like picking up stitches and knitting. And like with any crochet or knitting, the first row is always the hardest. And once you get past this, it kind of flies. I use my thumbnails to get the hook in there. That's just the way I've been doing it since I was a kid. I don't know. You might not need to use your thumbnails to get the hook in there. Now, I chained 10, and because I went into the hyphen right next to the hook, I have 11 loops on the needle. That is normal. I'm pulling out some more yarn here, just a moment. Okay, that was also what a right to left row is going to look like. Now I'm going to work a left to right row. I grab the yarn, I'm here at the left side. I grab the yarn, I pull it through one loop, grab the yarn, pull through two, pull through two, pull through two, so all I did there is once I had everything picked up, the first stitch, I grab the yarn and pull through one, and all the rest of them, I grab the yarn and pull through two. Now we have this interesting looking thing here. You see these vertical stripes going up. That's what we're going to poke into to pick up the next row, these vertical stripes. And they're so easy. So this very first vertical stripe already has a loop attached to it, so we'll skip the very edge and go into the next one. Just in like that, grab the yarn and pull up a loop. You do this all the way across until you get to the very edge, and things are a little bit different here. We want the edge to look really good, so take a little bit of time to get this just right. You see there's kind of an upside down V here when you turn it and look at the side of the work. You want to put your hook under both of those legs of that V. It's kind of a different looking V, but you'll see it. And I usually drop the working yarn at this point. And then I have two loops on the hook. Grab the yarn and pull through those. Okay, now I've picked up everything all the way across. I'm ready to go the other direction again. So I grab the yarn and pull through one, because it's the first stitch. Grab the yarn and pull through two all the way across. Okay, we're back on this side. And this time I'm going to just kind of go at full speed so you see how quickly this works up. And then here I am at the very edge again. I need more yarn, just a moment. And there's my upside down V. I go under both legs of that V and pull up a loop, grab the yarn, pull through one, and then pull through two all the way across. Okay. Isn't that great? It looks really good already. I want to show you how to change color because this is the Tunisian stripes blanket and changing color is going to be a part of it. I'm going to break the yarn and I'm going to start in with this pink color next. And this is how I like to do it. Put your hook into the next vertical line. Grab your yarn and kind of flop it over like this and just grab that loop and pull it up. And your first stitch is still in the old color. Don't worry about it, that's normal. And then just pick up all the way across with the new color. And it gives you a perfect color break. Nothing muddy about it, it's so nice. Whoops. Okay. And then you can tie these, the old tail and the new tail, in a knot. Usually I do that right up at the beginning when the loops are still on the hook, so I can't over tighten it, but it's fine. And you'll have one loop that kind of stretches up into the other color. In the whole scheme of things in the whole blanket, it really doesn't make a difference. Now this stitch will curl while you're working it, but, and I have an example here to show you. This is the burrito of the stitch that I've worked, and that is normal. But I want to show you what happens with just a little bit of steam. This is what happens. It's you can always test this with your swatch. Apply a little bit of steam without pressing down on the work. It should help it flatten out perfectly. And this is acrylic yarn that I'm using here, and it still worked perfectly with acrylic yarn. If it's not flattening out with a little bit of steam, then you probably need to go up a hook size because it should look like this without much work. Okay. In the next section, I'm going to show you how to bind off and work the cross stitch letters or motifs or whatever you want. Once you knit a few stripes, you're going to get to the center panel, and I'll show you here. That's where I've done the cross stitch name and little hearts, and this is actually one of my dog's names. And you want to pick the alphabet that you're going to use before you finish knitting this section, because different alphabets are going to be different heights, and I used kind of a squatty alphabet for the baby color blanket I did, and I did a taller alphabet for this one, and so I had to modify the length of that middle stripe to accommodate the alphabets I want to use. Now, you can use, you can cross stitch anything you want in there, and you can use multiple colors even if you want. You can go online and Google cross stitch alphabets and then click the image tab. You will be overwhelmed with the choices that you have. And as long as and they're free, almost all of them are free, as long as it's on graph paper and each little square is one stitch, you're good. You can use any of those. Okay, so you want to actually work on the cross stitch before you finish the whole blanket. I recommend putting, finishing the center panel where the cross stitch will go, and then either putting a really long cord in or stretching or putting through some scrap yarn. It'll be easier to get your hand back and forth and work with it if you don't have the whole length of the blanket in the way. That's my suggestion for that. So let's go ahead and take a look at the alphabet that I chose. This is the alphabet that I used for the baby blanket, and you'll see that each letter is a little dot. It's kind of a squatty font. It ended up being that I would need to alter the width of the blanket because these letters are so squatty. I couldn't put a very long name using this alphabet, and the alphabet that I used on my dog blanket was much narrower. I could have put a much longer name in. But those are things to consider as you look to choosing a font. Okay. So I have this piece here that is nice and steamed out, and I can show you how to do the cross stitch. The first thing you want to do is to spell out the name and count the number of boxes across. Well, you want to count up and down, but you've already done that to determine the height of the center panel that you need. And I think on my blankets I have like 3 extra spaces above and 3 extra stitches below. And I also put 2 spaces between each letter. So you want to count all the way across and add up each letter, get a grand total with 2 spaces between, and then divide that by 2. Then you'll go back to your work and you'll, I can't remember what the chain number is on this. Is it 140? It's in the pattern, and I'll probably put an annotation here. Find the very center stitch and mark it, and then count out half the stitches this way and half the stitches this way, so your letters will be centered perfectly in the work. I'm not going to go to all that counting right now, but each box is 1 stitch, as we've discussed before. I want to show you how to actually work the cross stitch. It's very cool. You want to start from the top and work your way down. It's just easier that way, trust me on that. And coming from the back and using a contrasting color, come in at the bottom of the bottom left corner of one of the squares. It'll end up being just to the right of a horizontal line like that. Excuse me. And this goes really quickly, and I think it's really fun. Then you go in here on the next stitch, the upper left corner of the next stitch, and back out the lower left corner and pull that through. So you're coming back out at the lower left corner of this, go in the upper left corner just to the right of the vertical line, come out at the lower left corner just to the right of the vertical line. And watch your tension, of course, because this is decorative. The cross stitch is done in 2 rows. Once left to right and once, and then right to left to finish it off. You just want to watch me do this all day on video because I love this. I have to go the other way though. I have to show you. Okay, once I have worked my pattern all the way across and it's time for me to change direction, you're just going to keep going into the same holes that you went into on the last, when you went from left to right. So go into the same one here and out the same one there, and you will finish off the X. Isn't that pretty? And if at any point you feel like you have missed the mark a little bit, just undo that little stitch. Just watch what you're doing and you'll see if it looks good or not. I check the tension on every stitch as I go. You can always just undo a stitch or 2 and repair it because you want the whole thing to look good. Okay, and once I've finished everything I need to do in this row, I start to work my way down the letter this way. And we will pretend that the next row starts one stitch out. So I come in on the lower left corner of that stitch there, and then it's the same thing across. Okay, and then I'm going to go back the other way. I feel like I missed. Oh, I got it. Okay, you get the idea here. I like doing this. I think it's really fun. I just plugged in my audiobook when I made those sample blankets and just went to town. Okay, so that's the cross stitch. Easy to do, looks great. You want to be careful weaving these ends. I like to tie little knots. I will usually untwist the plies like this and string some of the plies a little bit away so that I can, under a stitch, so that you can tie the whole thing in a knot and it won't come unraveled and you can cut it short. Good idea to test it out on your swatch to make sure your yarn is going to stay in a tight knot. Some machine washable yarns kind of scoot their way out of knots, and you want to make sure that your yarn isn't one of them. If it is scooting its way, you have to just weave it in a traditional way, also probably tying a knot. Okay, the last thing I need to show you on the actual blanket part of this is binding off. And we're back to the little tiny sample we have here, because you're going to do your cross stitch and then you have more stripes to do to finish the blanket, and then the last thing will be binding it off. And it's very much like what we've done before. It's not difficult. You work a normal row, but when you have two loops on the hook, you pull one through the other. Pick up a loop, pull it through the other. Binding off goes very quickly. And the edge, it's the same thing as always. And then you can just break the yarn and pull that last end through and tighten it up. And you end up with a bind off that's very tidy, and the row below it is finished while we were binding off. Just one more little bit to go. In the next section, we are going to do the fringe. After you finish the entire blanket, you're ready to add the fringe, which is a really nice finishing touch. I have added fringe to 1,000 scarves and blankets in my life, and I'm always surprised by how finished things look when you do add it. Let's go ahead and take a close-up look at the fringe. Here's the edge of the blanket. I've chosen to do the fringe in the same color as the top and bottom stripes. You don't have to. I've cut these to be 3-inch long. They're a little bit longer when I first put them on, and then I trimmed them down to 3 inches, as you can see. And that's what we're going to learn how to do. And this fringe is the same way that you do fringe for any project. So you need a piece of cardboard that's going to be longer than the fringe that you're going to make. And so my cardboard is, you know, a little over 4 inches here, which means I'll have enough to get the fringe attached and trim it down to 3 inches. And this is what happens if the dog gets a hold of your cardboard piece before you have a chance to shoot the tutorial. But luckily I still had the box and I was able to cut this one. So you take your yarn and line up the end of the yarn with the bottom of the cardboard. And without stretching too crazy, just keep wrapping. This uses up a lot of yarn. Just keep wrapping it around the cardboard. And you can, if you really jam it together, you can get more on there. And end with the end at the bottom again. And trim that end. And then you need some sharp, narrow scissors. Just cut that. So now you have these pieces of fringe that are the exact same length, the exact length that you want, and all it took was sharp scissors and a little piece of cardboard that you kept away from the dog. So the way that I like to do this, we'll pretend that this is the whole blanket. I put a fringe here, and then cut it in half and put a fringe in the very center. And then I just keep splitting the difference. I put one here, and that, you know, that splits the difference, and then I put one in each spot between. And I just keep splitting the difference until it's until there's space the way that I end up liking it. And it keeps me from having to do a lot of measuring and figuring. It's, you know, I can just do it and it doesn't take a lot of thinking ahead. The fringe that I've done 3 strands each, and it doubles over to be a 6-strand fringe. You want to get the ends kind of lined up, and you'll need a crochet hook for this. And in the very edge of the work, this crochet hook's kind of too big for this, but it's okay. This is the crochet hook I used to demonstrate the bulky yarn, and this is a worsted weight yarn. So you take your fringes and put all 3, or however many you decide to do, around the hook, and then kind of line them up again. Pull that through the work. And this is a chance to really line them up well. And you have a loop big enough to grab the strands and pull it through and tighten it. And you have this nice, I think in macrame it's called a lark's head. You have this nice lark's head knot here, and the fringe is like this. I'll show you that again. Grab 3 strands, poke into the work where you'd like it to appear. I just end up going over under 2 legs of the chain row. Put those around the hook and pull it through. Straighten that out. Grab those ends and pull it through to make a tidy little knot. And then, like I said, oh, you can steam these out. They end up looking a lot better if they're steamed out. And if you steam them out before you trim them, they'll look a lot better. You don't have to have a blocking board for this. You do have to have sharper scissors than this. That was miserable. You can just set it at the edge of a table and just cut it off that way too. Well, that's everything. How to do Tunisian crochet, how to change colors, how to bind off, how to do cross stitch, how to make a fringe. Good luck on your blanket.